The rain had just stopped that morning when the volunteers unlocked the gates of the Maplewood Animal Shelter. Puddles shimmered on the concrete, and the air hung heavy with the scent of wet earth and pine. One by one, dogs were let out into the small chain-link yard, tails wagging, paws splashing, tongues lolling, with the simple joy of fresh air after a storm. But one dog didn't move. In the far corner of Kennel 7, a large German Shepherd sat completely still. His fur, once thick and proud, was now dull and slightly matted. His ears drooped like wilted leaves. His eyes, deep brown, flecked with amber, were fixed on some distant horizon only he could see. He didn't bark, didn't wag, didn't even flinch when the door clanged open. His name was Denver, and everyone at the shelter had noticed. Denver wasn't like the others. While the other dogs leaped for treats, chased tennis balls, or pressed hopeful noses through the bars at passing strangers, Denver remained silent, withdrawn. Every time a new face appeared at the shelter entrance, his body would tense, just slightly, as if a spark of hope flickered inside him. He'd watch the door with quiet intensity, ears lifting, tail giving the faintest twitch. And then, when it wasn't him, that spark would die. He'd look away, retreating deeper into himself, as though searching for someone who never came. Most dogs found homes within weeks, some within days. But Denver? He'd been there for nearly a year. People said he was too old, though he was only 6. Too quiet, too distant. He doesn't engage, one potential adopter had said. Feels like he's already given up. But no one knew his story. No one knew what had been stolen from him. No one knew that his silence wasn't indifference, it was grief. And then, one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. A man walked in. He wasn't flashy. No designer clothes. No loud laugh. Just a worn denim jacket, scuffed boots, and hands that trembled slightly as he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a faded photograph, edges curled, corners smudged from too many days of being touched. He approached the front desk, voice low but steady. Do you have a German Shepherd named Denver?" The shelter worker, a young woman with kind eyes and a clipboard, blinked. Yes, we do." The man swallowed hard. "With a small scar above his right eye?" Her breath caught. "Yes." He closed his eyes for just a second, then opened them, voice cracking like thin ice. "He used to be mine." And that's when it happened. From the back of the shelter, from the quiet corner where hope had gone to sleep, Denver lifted his head. He didn't run, didn't bark, but his ears, those drooping ears, shot upright. His eyes locked onto the man, and in that instant, something shattered inside him. He stood, took one step, then another, and then his legs gave out. Right there, in the middle of the shelter aisle, Denver collapsed. His whole body trembled violently. A low, broken whimper escaped his throat. Then another, and another. Not barks, not growls, sobs. Deep, guttural cries that sounded like a heart finally remembering how to break. The man, Thomas, dropped to his knees. Volunteers froze. Dogs stopped barking. Even the distant hum of traffic seemed to fade. It felt like the world had stopped turning. Because this wasn't just a dog reacting to a voice. This was memory crashing through silence. This was love returning after a year of exile. This was grief meeting grace in the most unexpected place. Thomas crawled forward, tears streaming down his face. "It's me, boy," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "I'm here. I came back." Denver dragged himself the last few feet and pressed his head hard against Thomas's chest, as if trying to melt back into the life he'd lost. His body shook with the weight of every lonely night, every unanswered hope, every silent prayer that his person would return. And Thomas held him like he'd never let go again. But how had they been torn apart? Why had Thomas vanished without a goodbye? And could a bond this broken ever truly heal? The truth began 2 years earlier. Thomas had lived in a small cozy house just outside Winnipeg, Canada, where snow dusted the rooftops in winter and the forest whispered secrets behind his backyard. It was just him and Denver. No wife, no kids. Just a man and his dog, bound by a loyalty deeper than words. Denver wasn't just a pet. He was Thomas's shadow, his confidant, his reason to get out of bed on the darkest days. When Thomas's father passed away, it was Denver who laid his head in Thomas's lap and stayed there through the tears, silent, steady, present. But life doesn't pause for healing. One icy morning, Thomas got the call. His company was downsizing. His job gone. With no savings, mounting bills and winter closing in, he sold the house. He moved into his old pickup truck, sleeping in rest stops and parking lots, taking odd jobs just to eat. Denver stayed with him through it all. Loyal, silent, faithful, even as the cold bit deeper and the nights grew longer. Then the truck broke down. No heat, no money, no options. One freezing evening, Thomas walked into a small-town shelter. His hands shook as he handed over the leash. Denver looked up at him, confused but calm, trusting to the very end. "I'm so sorry, buddy," Thomas whispered, stroking his head one last time. And he walked out, without looking back. That night, Thomas cried into his steering wheel until he couldn't breathe. Back at the shelter, Denver waited. Every time the door opened, his tail would flick, just once, then fall still. Weeks passed, months. His eyes dulled, his spirit dimmed. Staff called him the quiet one, but they also saw the truth. He was waiting. Meanwhile, Thomas clawed his way back. Loading docks, fence repairs, car washes. He saved every dollar. Got a tiny studio apartment, a job at a shipping warehouse. But his heart remained hollow. Until one day, a coworker mentioned the shelter posted dog photos online. On a whim, or maybe a prayer, Thomas scrolled, and there he was, older, thinner, but unmistakable, the scar above his right eye. Denver. Thomas's hands shook as he called the shelter. "He's still here?" "Yes," they said. "He doesn't open up to anyone. It's like he's waiting for something." Thomas whispered, voice breaking, "He's waiting for me." He didn't sleep that night. And now here he was, kneeling on the shelter floor, holding the dog he thought he'd lost forever. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you," Thomas sobbed. "I left because I couldn't feed you anymore. I couldn't even feed myself." Denver looked up, eyes glassy but alert. Then he did something no one had ever seen. He licked the tear off Thomas's cheek. In that moment, the shelter staff knew this wasn't just a reunion. This was redemption. Adoption paperwork was signed within the hour. The same collar Thomas had surrendered a year ago was clipped back on, tags still intact. Denver, loyal always. As they walked out into the sunlight, Denver paused at the door. He turned and gave one slow, deliberate look back at the shelter, as if to say, "Thank you." Then he stepped forward, into his second life. Home wasn't the same house with the big yard. It was a small apartment, worn couch, humble kitchen. But Thomas knelt beside him and said, It's not what we had, but it's what I have now, and I want to share it with you. Rebuilding trust wasn't easy. Denver flinched at loud noises, panicked during thunderstorms, hesitated at doorways. But Thomas moved slowly, spoke softly, sat on the floor for hours, letting Denver come to him. Bit by bit, joy returned, a tail wag when Thomas came home. A stolen sock hidden under the couch. A slow climb onto the bed one quiet night. Then came a job offer in another city. Better pay, a house with a fenced yard. Thomas hesitated, but he looked at Denver and said, "Wherever we go together." In the new backyard, Denver ran in wide, joyful circles, barking like a pup again. At the riverbank, the same spot from their past, Denver dipped his paw in the water, then turned and gave Thomas the slowest, most content tail wag of his life. That night, Thomas framed their old photo, the one of Denver as a puppy chasing butterflies, and hung it above his bed. But now, new photos joined it. Denver napping in sunbeams, playing with Mrs. Elkins, sleeping with his head on Thomas's chest. One day, a letter arrived from the shelter. We never gave up on Denver, but more importantly, he never gave up on you. Thomas held it to his heart, because that's the miracle of love like this. It doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't keep score. It just waits. And when the one you lost finally returns, it forgives, it heals, it begins again. So, if you're watching this, if your heart aches for a second chance, if you've ever loved something you thought you'd lost, know this: hope is real. Dogs like Denver are real. And people like Thomas, broken but trying, are real too. Visit your local shelter. Volunteer. Adopt. Share this story. Because somewhere right now, a dog is waiting. A door is about to open, and a heart is about to be made whole again.